This week on Not Just Another Sex Podcast, I want to know, why does the world need women in radio?
I honestly think it's less about the world and more about me, because that's why I started it. And I think what I needed was women in radio. And
you've been very vulnerable and transparent about your journey with fibroids.
In that surgery, they found a 5-pound tumor that was taking over my uterus. It knocked out one of my ovaries to the point they stopped surgery.
Hey, sugar. I feel like there are so many different things that I need to learn as an adult. I'm this nasty on a regular day, like on a Tuesday. I am your host, Samaya Burton, and don't worry, it's not just another sex podcast. Welcome back to Not Just Another Sex Podcast. My name is Samaya, and I am your host, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Before we get started, as you guys know, we are going to read a review. It says, "Can't get enough, bestie." I know that's right, girl. Talk to me nice. I am beyond thrilled to have found this podcast. You have opened me up to different avenues of thinking and helped me dig in deeper on my healing journey and finding out who I am for myself. Love you, girl. For real, for real. You are such an influential woman, our best friend on these podcast airwaves. Ooh, thank you. It's so crazy the way that community has changed. I have found myself missing you guys. Like, I've jumped in the Discord and I'm like, hey, do you guys have time for extra, like an extra chat this month, or just really trying to figure out what is another way that I can interact with my community more. So I really do resonate with this. You guys are my friends. Like, we got some boundaries in it, but you guys are my podcast friends, and I really do appreciate when you guys tune in each week. So if you guys are listening to the show and you know that you have not left a review, please do so. If I'm your friend in your head, in your podcast, even just for an hour, then talk to me nice and please leave a review. I get imposter syndrome, and also it's really difficult getting up here and sharing my business and not knowing if I'm going to embarrass myself or help somebody. And so when you guys tell me that I'm helping you, I believe you. I really do. And also, this show costs nothing for you guys to take in, whether you're taking in the visuals, which are everything on YouTube, or on the gram with the clips, or just wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. It costs nothing to take it in. So just telling somebody, resharing, dropping it in the group chat, or pressing play on YouTube, because it is monetized, it goes so much farther than you guys think. So please don't think that anything is too small. So, but thank you so much, sweetie, for leaving that review. All right. So today we have an amazing episode. It's been a long time coming. But I have Miss Meaghan here with me today. Meaghan Taylor so when I first got into podcasting, she was the first person that acknowledged me. And she sent me a invite to the Women in Radio conference that she puts on every single year. And I've been trying to connect with her since then. But she is really amazing, and I'm so excited to just get to know her. So please say hello to the folks.
Hi, folks. Hey, podcast family. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. I'm excited we finally got to do it.
Absolutely.
A little nervous, but we're going to handle it.
It's going to be so good. So I am really big on giving people their flowers when they come on here, and just people that how I feel, I remember. I can't remember nothing else, but I do remember how people make me feel. And I remember just starting the podcast and realizing, oh my God, I am a woman in radio. And so it was just very validating getting into the podcast scene. And I'm still connecting with people from the conference when I went the very first year. So I'm just so excited for you to get to know you on today. And really, you guys are going to get to see what it's like to just start making new friends, because really that's what I'm doing. This is what it looks like. I usually know a lot of my guests, but professionally, we've just been following each other for a while. So you guys get to watch. So, wow. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to get into the show.
Yeah, so Meaghan Taylor. I moved to Atlanta in 2020. I started Women in Radio, 2016. I've been in radio for almost 10 years now.
Wow.
I feel old. But I started radio back at FAMU. Come on, Rattlers.
Okay, get into it. I know there's
one watching.
Absolutely.
And it just took off from there. I had a great experience on college radio. When I graduated, however, it was a little hard, a little tricky to find my footing. And then when I did get my first job, I was like, whoa, because it was the Urban AC. Urban AC is like the older music, like 50-year-old listeners. So obviously my coworkers were older in age, and I just felt really lost. So one night, I think I had actually gotten into an argument with my boyfriend at the time. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do my own thing and be a businesswoman, and I don't have to depend on you. And honestly, that's where Women in Radio came from, because I needed friends in this industry. It's tough, it's hard, it's not always fun. And it's just grown so much, and it's so exciting, but it's also a lot of hard work. But
Yeah.
it's, building a community is building a community. There's a lot of ups and downs with it, but the friendships and family you make within that community makes it all worth it. So I'm definitely excited to be here with you. Like you said, I'm learning about you too. I mean, I can only learn so much watching your podcast, but actually being face to face, this is going to be good.
All right. Well, I love that for us. Here to girls making new friends. Y'all go ask that girl that you keep seeing at the gym to go to lunch with you or something. Okay. All right. So you're going to walk through the episode with me today. And we always start off with the adult tip of the day, because I don't know about you, but growing up, like you just said, oh my gosh, we're getting older.
Yeah.
Adulting is hard. You
is.
need different things every day. Some days you need your therapist. Some days you need a massage. Some days you just need to eat.
Right.
Like, and so look here. Oh no. They were doing a sound check on her earlier, and they were like, tell us what you have for breakfast, just trying to get her to talk. She was like, well, I haven't actually eaten yet. And we, it's like 4:00. No judgment. But no, like, it's difficult. It's so many things to keep up with. And so if you're tuned into this, we hope that it's just like 5 minutes of whatever we saying can help take something off your plate, or say, you know what, I adulted for the day. If nothing else, you did that. So today's adult tip of the day is that with consistency and repetition, you can become a different person. The more evidence that we have for belief, the more likely we are to believe it. And that is from Atomic Habits, the book. And I want to say that one more time, because I was going to choose just one part or the other part. And I was like, no, I need the whole thing. So with consistency and repetition, you can become a different person. The more evidence that we have for belief, the more likely we are to believe it. And for me, I am constantly changing into and transforming into someone new. And what I realize is that when you start off, no matter what, you have to put in the repetitions. You have to put in the reps. And I'm learning how to edit right now. The level of patience that you need, and just so many different things that I'm trying that are new. You can get so frustrated with yourself, but if you want to be good, it's just repetition and consistency to say, oh, I'm a vlogger, oh, I'm this now, oh, I'm a podcaster, doing it over and over again. And the more that you do it, the more that you even believe in yourself that you are that. So you're a woman in radio. You've been showing up for 10 years. You've been putting on this conference. You are a businesswoman, And so I would love to hear, if you have anything to add to it, whether you've read the book Atomic Habits, or, how that may apply to you. But
yeah, so I'm very much like detail oriented and a schedule person. I do the same thing every morning. I wake up at 5 a.m. I make my bed, make my tea. I journal. When I journal, it's 3 things I'm grateful for, what I have to do today, and I write a letter to God. Because I feel like my thoughts communicate better when I'm writing. And then I say it out loud. And then I get started with work. So yeah, I do the same thing every day, to the point where now Monday through Thursday, I don't go out at all, because I know I want to be refreshed and up for the morning at 5 a.m. And then work starts at 6. But that first hour just by myself is so important. And I tell people all the time, because my friends are like, I can't wake up at 5. And you don't have to.
Yeah.
But if you just give yourself at least an hour before you really have to get up, and you're like very consistent on that, it will change your life.
I agree with that. I'm trying to. So I am a morning person, but a 6 a.m. and a 5 a.m. is one that I'm really struggling with. I started going to the gym at like 6:30 recently.
I saw that.
You saw I missed it like 3 days in a row. I was like,
it's okay, because you keep trying, right?
And it was really nice, because my day, I was able to do everything else after that on time, because I had such a head start. And so I really want to do better about that, because I think I'm kinder to myself when I give myself enough time to go slow. Right. But now that I'm transitioning into the van, or have transitioned into the van, keeping that same, figuring out what is my routine when I'm in this van life. Right. Because I do understand that when I'm at the content house, my daily routine is everything. Like if you show me your routine, I'll tell you who you are.
Right.
Like literally. And so I'm balancing that. But yeah, consistency and repetition, you literally can change into a different person.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, I want to lose weight, or oh, I want to be a writer, just do it every day. It doesn't matter if it's good. It's just about doing it. The more that you do it, the more that you believe. Yeah. So if you guys have not checked out Atomic Habits, I really do love that book. I like things that break it down to a science, like why we do the things that we do, because then it's easier to have that conviction for it to stick, you know? So yeah, hope you guys check that out. All right. So we're going to move on to Twitter Talk. Twitter Talk is really to pay homage to Black Twitter, which is really the culture and all things social media, and so many funny moments when it's supposed to be serious, or oh my gosh, here's a random fact I didn't know, here's a hack, you know.
Right.
And you know, Black Twitter has always just been us, the culture, bringing it no matter whether they change the name or whatever. So Twitter Talk is where it's just a little bit more controversial, or just like a little banter back and forth. And I actually got this from you. Oh. So on your page, I love that you do your 8 thoughts of the week, right? And you're pretty consistent with it. And I saw that you even have it as a highlight on your page. So make sure you guys click the Instagram below so you can check out her Instagram and follow them too. I love that they differ. Sometimes it's like a Bible verse, sometimes it's like a quote or whatever. But this one said, my weekly struggle is wondering if I need a podcast, a column, a segment, a blog, or to keep all these thoughts to myself.
Yeah.
And I feel that. So tell me more about that, this space that you're in, like, because I feel that too. Every week, even though I do the show every week, I'm like, do they really want to hear this? Like, so I would love to hear more about where you are with this struggle of wanting to share more.
I'm a deeply private person. It's actually one of the reasons why I'm not on Twitter anymore, because I start to feel like I was sharing too much. And I actually wrote that after my 8th annual conference in March. All I did was share my resume to everybody in the audience, and I felt like I just showed them me naked. It was like too much. Like, I'm like, oh my God, now people know I did this and that, and I was engaged, and I just wanted to hide after I said it. And people are like, well, we never knew so much about you. And I like tell my friends all the time, like, I feel like I shared too much. They're like, Meaghan, nobody knows anything about you.
You know nothing. I think that's why I love the 8 tips of the thoughts of the week. I'm like, she be talking.
So,
okay.
So that is my way of being vulnerable and sharing, because I feel like, I don't know, sometimes I just feel like I share too much. So that's my way, and that keeps me right now, like, giving enough. However, I would love to do a podcast. I really just have to.
You want to talk that shit?
Figure it out a way where I'm comfortable with it, but I'm also sharing who I am. Because who wants a closed host? Like
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I think that it even ties into the dope tip of the day, that with consistency and repetition, you can become someone new.
Right.
And I say that because just committing to that once a week is giving people something, right? And now they're looking, like, I go look for it. Like, I went through your stories and I was like, well, damn, maybe she didn't do it today. It's okay. It's in the highlight. Like, she upgraded it. But now it's like, if people listening are like, well, I want to share more and I want to do this, you don't have to jump off the cliff and like, oh, I'm starting to show, I'm doing this. Because also I think being honest about where you are and what you're willing to give to the person that's going to be committing to listening to you every week. Like, I take it very serious. I hate when I miss an episode or when I miss something. I know I have to show up for me, but you know, I don't take it lightly. And so even just you committing to that every single week, I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And I do think that a lot of people are struggling with that. Like, it's so many podcasters out here and it's so many everything else that it's like, is this really the space for me? And I even go through that. In addition, I added another segment of the show called Solos with Samaya, just because it was a recommendation from one of the listeners. They're like, you love to talk, and just get them out of there. Just talk by yourself sometimes. Just get them out of there. And also it helped me to just let it out, kind of journal. And people are fucking with it. And they're like, I love this part, you know? Yeah. And so I've just been trying to figure out too, what parts should I share and what parts do I not? And it makes me feel so good when I share, even though it does be scary as hell. But by the time you get it out or you get the response from people, it feels so good that I'm like, am I doing this because it makes me feel good, or am I doing this because they need it?
Yeah.
So that's something that I struggle with, but I absolutely resonated with that, the weekly struggle of what do I put out. So recently I decided that I was going to go ahead and start a van vlog. And this is me letting you guys know. I don't know when you're going to hear this episode, but it's called I Am Home. And it was a big decision for me because it was just like I felt like I was adding something else yet again within a year. Right. And it's just like, you know what, I had to commit to saying that, like, with this friendship with my podcast family, I told them I'm going through this as we speak. I'm not telling you something that happened years ago. I'm going through this every week and really figuring it out. And unfortunately, and not unfortunately, amazingly, I ended up transitioning to be this van lifer. And it's like I want to share that with people because the truth about why I did it, I think is something other people need to know. And I think other people are struggling with finances. I think other people are not okay with this traditional setup that we're in. And so I was just like, I'm going to do it. So for me, I just really resonated with this because it is a weekly struggle of me feeling like, do they want to hear something else about me? Am I helping? So
you are.
Well, thank you, friend. Thank you, baby. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move into some topics. I do have some questions. I want to know more about the Women in Radio Conference and just what it started as and like the things that you're really proud of now, what it was for.
I was living in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I had taken a job in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Lasted 6 whole months. I was on air. I was an assistant program director. It was my first full-time radio job, but I just couldn't do it. It wasn't the place for me. So anyways, we're going to do the conference. So I just started hitting up a few women who I admired in the South Florida area because at the time, that's where my boyfriend lived. So I'm like, I'm going to do it down in Miami because that's where I'll at least have somewhere to stay. So it started just like oh my God, our first conference, oh my God. It was in a City of Miami owned rec room.
Okay.
We did have Crabman 305 cater it.
Okay.
That was great. And it was free.
Nice.
So it was catered. It was free off of the strength of my ex or whatever. And it was... It was very basic. I look at the pictures now. I'm like in this really, like, I was like, I'm going to go for this businesswoman look. So I had like this dress. It's like poking out like this. I looked like a person from the 50s who lives in the suburbs.
Thought you was
it was
serving
bright
now.
And it was just whatever. But now it's amazing. I love everything about it. I still do it by myself. It's hard to find good help. I start planning it in October. And now I'm in a space where people want to be on our panel. I don't even really have to reach out that much, except for the people I really want there. This was our 8th year in March. Previously, we had Angela Yee on our conference panel. We've had Thea Mitchum, who is Angela Yee's boss. She came back again this year, and it was amazing. So,
what are some things that you appreciate from just the grind part? Because we've all been there. Like the first time we do an event and I know that I used to do this event called the Art Exhibit. It was a live sex art show.
I heard about it.
Yeah. I hope it was nothing but good things. But it was it was something that I was not able to sustain for very long because of the level of like delivery that I wanted it to have. And like you said, without the extra help, finding the sponsorships and finding the people to help and who are going to donate, you end up just saying, I'll just do it myself. And then you end up paying all this money and you can't keep up with it because, a lot of events don't break even. Like most events don't, unless you're getting sponsorships or whatever. But there are a lot of things that I learned, about it, and a lot of things I learned from even when I used to do the mouth master classes. Like we were traveling around and we were in like dance halls and stuff like that. And it was just, it was rough, but I learned so much that I use now. So what are some things that you learned just from having to start from the bottom and get it together?
I think owning a businesswoman in radio and doing these conferences has brought me so much self-esteem and confidence. I'm a person who has not had the highest self-esteem or confidence. So like, even though my first year my event was free, I'm like, are people gonna come? Like, this silly girl, it's free, there's food, and people in Miami want to be in the media industry real bad. So
Yeah.
they're going to come. So it's taught me that. It's definitely taught me how to manage expectations of other people.
In what way?
Every year, at the end of the previous conference, people come up to me, hey, I want to help you plan next year's conference. Mm-hmm. When I reach out, great conversations. Like I said, I start planning in October. Sometime between October and March, it just fizzles away. To the point, like this year, I actually leaned on somebody. They didn't come through, and it really messed me up. Like this year, we didn't have any monetary sponsors. Last year, when you were on the panel, we did.
Okay.
But my faith has taught me a lot of faith.
Because you pulled it off. You still...
I did. And yeah.
I would say that with the content house, I've learned what I thought faith was and what it is are two different things. And I had definitely romanticized what I thought faith looked like for me. Right? And what I realized is that faith is not like... Faith is doing it when you literally don't know how you're going to do it and doing it anyway. Taking the step anyway, making the calls, telling people that this is the date, setting the date, like, you know, and not saying making prompt, like we're not talking about like Fire Festival. Like we're not talking about doing that. But I do think that it's a point that you don't just stop planning just because you don't have it.
Right.
And I think people don't know how to voice how that feels.
Right.
And so many people are going through it where they're like, this hurts. Right. How am I supposed to create when I don't have the tools and now I don't have the inspiration? Like I'm actually down on myself.
Yeah.
And so I had to realize like faith is not pouting until you get it.
Right.
Like my son will ask me for ice cream, and then if we don't go get it right then, he's like, I thought we were going to get ice cream. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm going. Like give me a second, you know? And it's like, how often do we do that with God? How often do we ask for something and then we huff and fight or whatever because we don't see the whole vision of how it's really coming through. But what does faith look like? Like how has your faith changed since starting and also realizing like you have to push through regardless? Yeah. So how has your faith changed?
I mean, this year was honestly a testament to faith. Because we had no sponsor. Nothing. So I had people coming from out of town, half of our panel. And it's like,
So how'd you get the location?
So
she's like, girl, I was stripping. Don't even ask me. Don't explain. No. We was in here talking about. We was like, look, who gonna have to work the pole on Tuesday so we can make some of this happen? But
it's just really, I am a God's girl, and whenever. I mean, like I said, at 5 a.m. every morning, I'm into God. But when I am into God, where I'm praying like he's the only person I can talk to on the phone, things always happen. And it's like it took us so long to release the date it was going to happen because I had to find a space that could cater to us and then be in a budget, right? So at first I'm like, I'm going to do it. If I have to use my personal funds, I'll do that. Because the panel you were on, that space that I paid for and all that came with it.
It was a beautiful space.
That space is mainly for weddings. Okay? I spent a wedding budget on that space, but I also had the sponsors. This year I had nothing. And shout out to Atlanta Tech Village. They were great. They love women in radio so bad, and I appreciate that. But anyways, I was at a space where I'm like, I'm going to do the down payment by myself. And one thing I learned is to stop putting your own money into things. But we got the space. The day I released the tickets, the first day ticket sales came up to the amount the space cost. I was like, shit. Like, we got something. Like, God, you did it. Like,
that's enough. If nothing else, I can put this event on.
Right. So, and then everything else after that, just, I can't say anything but God. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, honestly. And this year, I've leaned on my friends because my friends are always like, let me know if you need anything. And when it comes to my conference and my events, I just stay in my head with it. If I'm going through it, I stay in my head with it. But this year I started talking about it to my friends And my friend showed up, like, I don't even like taking money from people, period. I'm the person people come to and
for
like,
money.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my, and I'm like, I'm going to pay. They're like, no.
Yeah.
We always ask you what you need. And it worked out. God is good.
Tell me more about the learning to stop putting your money into things. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Stop putting your money into things. Find out how you can get things done and paid for if it's by trade. Like this year, the photo booth person, we did it by trade with marketing and stuff like that. What else? Stanley, we reached out to them. They're like, we'll ship you 175. I'm like, okay. And I wasn't thinking about what 175 Stanleys look like.
Stanley cups.
But it came in a pallet, and like my concierge was like, there's a pallet in the loading deck for you. I'm like, he's like, I don't think we can fit this in your apartment or whatever. I'm like, okay, but it's just, if people can't give you money, what can they give you? Because it takes.
I still got to do the goodie bags.
Yes,
I still got to do
exactly.
Goodie bags. I sound like a mom. All right,
but
swag bags.
And at the beginning of the year, Stanley was and it still is a big thing. So at that point, when they're at their highest and they still write my email, I only had to send it twice, and they're like, we love this idea. How can we help you? Then that was great because that helped with attendance as well.
I will say that when I stopped doing the art exhibit, I had to learn that if I was going to do something, I still had to respect my own boundaries with doing it. And I loved the art exhibit and what it stood for and things like that. But at the same time, I don't like overcharging people for certain things. And when you pay for everything yourself, that's when the price is getting to $300-$400 and things like that. But when you're getting these sponsors and things given to you and assistance, then you can make the price affordable.
Right.
And so it just came to a point where it was like, okay, I'm paying the performers. I'm also advertising for the performers. And also my platform is large. Like, so it's almost like Essence. You would go to Essence and you're like, oh, I want to work with Essence. The first time Essence hired me, I was a little disappointed with the support in getting there, as if getting to New Orleans for Essence Fest is not a very expensive thing. Like trying to find somewhere to stay during that time and the price gouging and things like that. But you bend your back and you find a way to do it because of the opportunity, the exposure and things like that. And that's how I always looked at the art exhibit, except I was paying performers and I was purchasing everything, because if I purchased it, then I could figure out, I would have more control over like how the delivery was going to be. And it just, after a while, I was just like, I can't do this. There wasn't enough boundaries. It wasn't enough money. It wasn't, and I'm like, I'm using my money to do this. And it's just like, doesn't work.
Right.
And so last year we ended up transitioning for a number of reasons, but also just transitioning into this space, and we turned it into a live show for my podcast instead. And it was actually so much more intimate and so much more beautiful and to where I was at that time.
Right.
I think the art exhibit was a little bit of ego. It was huge. It was like, okay, I can do this, but just because I can doesn't mean I should. And it was so many different things coming up that it was like, this is feeling like force, not flow. And we transitioned here, and then now there are other podcasters that are like, I can do a live show here and it can have different like intimate performances and things like that. Something that we weren't getting at public spaces, where it was difficult to find people that would let you do the event how you want to do it. Right. And so, did you feel like you hit any walls where you felt like this is force, not flow, but changing something was like, damn, this is what it made all the difference for you?
I can't say that I have.
And you can come back to it if it comes to. I know that sometimes I ask the questions and it's like, damn, maybe I haven't even thought about that perspective.
Feel like a lot of things have always, even though it felt hard, it's just always worked out.
Yeah.
Which I'm very thankful for, because I feel like that's when I know like I'm on the right track of what I'm supposed to be doing and what God wants me to do.
How do you talk to yourself when you're going through these type of things? I know for me, when shit feels bad, the thoughts can come in and they're intrusive and they're not necessarily the kindest. And so I have to shut up, period. Like I have to silence my mind, because I'm like, no. I have to get my words together so I can talk to myself nice. Because like if I called you and I'm like, girl, I'm going through this, you're not gonna talk to me crazy. So why would I talk to myself crazy?
True.
You know? But when things aren't working and you feel like you bit off more than you can chew, or feel like, okay, nobody's showing up for me, like that, those statements aren't even true. You know what I mean? So how do you talk to yourself? I know you said you talk to God, but how do you talk to yourself when you're going through this?
I'm at a point in my life when I'm going through something negative, I kind of have to shut my thoughts off because I know how much a bully to myself I can be. So what I'll do, which is not very great, I'll go to sleep.
Stress sleep.
Yeah, I'm here. And that is my way, because if I'm up and I'm in my head about it, it's not going to be good. Nothing's going to get done. It's not going to be productive. So I might as well go to sleep.
Get some rest, if nothing else. Wake up and try again.
Figure it out. Yeah, because every new day brings a new opportunity to try it again. So
Take that good old nap. Take that good old nap.
My CBD against the world.
I feel that. Okay, so creating something from scratch, do you feel like, have you ever felt like, why does the world need women in radio?
I honestly think it's less about the world and more about me, because that's why I started it. And I think what I needed was women in radio, and the women actually in the radio industry needed me, or not just me, because for a long time I didn't even post myself. Nobody even knew who was running it, but just the organization, like the community aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. I've met so many women. Women came up to me, and at that time, and some of those things followed through and some of them didn't.
Right.
But there were women that came up to me and was like, hey, I would love to volunteer, to help with the podcast and things like that. And for me, it was like, it was a rough time when I was coming. Like I was $10 in the bank account, but on this stage telling people about how to do this and things like that, because I had just started the content house. And so even walking in the room and knowing that there were people that were willing to volunteer to work with me, it was beautiful, period. Just being seen, or mind you, I was new. I was new. So I'm going there and they're like, I love your podcast. Right. When another girl comes up and like, my friend really loves you. Can she, like, girl, what? Absolutely. Yes. Like, what do I need to do? How do I sign autographs?
Yeah. So we always have a number of women come from out of town and they'll email me, or like if they're a member, we'll do the one-on-one consultations and they'll be like, what's the vibe? And I'm like, this is not a mean girl type of thing. The vibe is honestly me. I am very much laid back. That's how my conference is. I'm a nice girl. That's how my conference is. Like, I'm not going to have anybody on that stage who is a bully. Like, I'm not going to do that, right? So, yeah, they really enjoy our conferences. They enjoy our panelists, and it just becomes like a thing where they decide to come out every year. Yeah. No, I was so sad I missed it. When I tell you I was bending over backwards. I know, you texted me.
I was like, girl.
And are you safe? You're in the woods.
I'm like, girl, my car, the battery. When I tell you, I was like, it's just not meant to be. It's not meant to be. I had to chill. But I will say this. I had made a post and I was like, if anybody wants to just volunteer me a ticket or sponsor me a ticket to go, I would love to, because I really enjoyed this conference. And Meaghan messaged me so fast. She was like, girl, email them and tell them that you're on my list and we'll see you.
Yeah, because all of our panelists, we invite every panelist from the last 8 years, 8 years back for free. Like, I want to see them there.
It makes a difference. A lot of people see people on the radio, on the shows, in entertainment, period, and they think it's so much glitz and glamour.
Right.
And it is so much work. Like, even the word, this is the entertainment. Baby, that's a job. Like, I don't want to, I'm at this point where I don't even want to entertain people no more. I'm at the point where I'm at this point, we either friends or we not. I can't shuck and jive no more. Right. And I don't think I ever did, but it's to the point that if it's not really where I'm at, just be honest with it. The people that are in your community will hear that. You don't have to try. Like, the more that you show up, even when you don't have it, that's when it creates that expectation. Like, well, this is what she does, So I just appreciated that. It made me feel really good. It made me feel seen. And I just have not had one experience since going to the conference that has not been
I hate that.
Positive. No, like in a good way. Okay. Maybe I said it wrong.
Yeah.
I haven't had one experience with the conference that has not been just so pleasant and just has made me feel seen. Everything from the gift box that I got when they said, hey, can you be on the panel? I was like, oh, I feel like a bridesmaid. And even when I got there and even meeting Chelsea. Chelsea came on one of the other shows that we produce, and we were talking about the importance of networking properly. And like you said, people always reaching out and saying, "Hey, I want to help," and then they not following through or things like that. So it's a great space to practice and to create community in this women in radio. So now, of course, I want to know, what does dating look like? With being such a private person. Yes, I know. I saw the eyes. What does it look like? You did women in radio because you needed it.
Right.
You said your confidence has changed so much and your self-esteem has really improved. How have you seen that reflected in your dating life?
I don't think it's transferred over.
It ain't transferred over?
Not by my choices. I don't know. Dating is just, it's hard, right? Because we're all coming from these backgrounds and experiences, from childbirth to past relationships. And it's like, okay, well, how much can we blame? I hate to say blame, but I understand stuff impacts us. But it's like, at a point, like, God,
get it together.
Right, because I've been pulling it together. Like, I'm a crazy person. I've been thinking crazy things, and I show up as normal as I can be. So you can't not cheat. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So dating is interesting. I
have another one for you because it's okay. I have another one for you because you did on your 8 thoughts of the week. Like I said, y'all go follow her page because she does 8 thoughts a week and they vary. Whatever the thoughts are, they vary. Sometimes it's to go do something. Sometimes it's a verse, whatever. But you also said you were talking about women becoming like the new soulmates. And I know this is a conversation that has just, been going around amongst women. Right. And I know I definitely feel that the way that my friends, period, show up for me, I don't know if it's opened a door for better dating or made it more difficult to date. I don't know, but I know I don't have to settle for love the way that they love me. Yeah. So what have your female friendships and your friendships, period, taught you about love at this day and age?
At this day and age, I would say growing up, it was hard for me. I moved around a lot. I think I moved around like 7 times before I was 15.
That's a lot.
Which is really hard. And it's a lot. And you get used to saying hi and bye to people. And at that time, it wasn't social media. So it's like, I'm not going to see you again. Or I'm also really good at leaving people where they had me fucked up at and not giving grace, which is not good. I'm learning it's not good. But because I'm so used to not having like a turnover because I moved still, like I'm okay with it unless it was like a really, really, really deep relationship, which I haven't had one of those end in a very long time. But at this point in time, I have a couple best friends, and they are great. One of my best friends is Danielle. My other one is Chelsea. Danielle was my first roommate when I moved here to Atlanta in 2020. I had just left a really bad engagement. And one thing about us, we didn't know each other from a can of paint. She came to one of my women in radio conferences, and I'm like, and she was so nice. Like, so nice, like how I can be so nice. And I'm like, what's the motive? Like, I don't understand.
It's rare.
Yeah. So, and we would always be both so busy. But every time we would catch up when we both lived in South Florida at the time, we would sit and talk for 3 hours at a time, like once a year. So, in 2020, a weekend before the pandemic came and shut everything down, I had my Women in Radio conference up here. And she came with her podcast host. She's like, yeah, I think I'm staying with my sister right now, but I think I just want to move to like the city of Atlanta because they were living in the outskirts because she's like in entertainment as well, media. I'm like, okay. And at the time, I was trying to get out of my relationship so bad, but I didn't have the funds, and he was taking care of everything. And I reached out to her, and I was like, hey, I'm moving to Atlanta. Do you know anyone who wants a roommate? Just hoping she would be like, yeah, girl. She was like, I'll hit you back and let you know if I hear anything. And then she hit me back. She's like, we can be roommates. And that's where my plan came into, like, leaving that relationship, moving to Atlanta all by myself. I packed up my car with everything I owned. And she was I credit her to, like, saving my life. So
Is
that
Danielle the photo bar lady?
Photo beauty bar.
The
lashes.
lashes.
Yeah.
Girl, I love her lashes.
But yeah, I credit her. So that is I think the highest form of friendship I've seen and that I have right now. So it's important. Oh my God.
Oh, you turned up for your friend. I love that for you.
And then Chelsea, she's great.
Chelsea Monroe. I love her. She is really a gem, and I just love that she's just so inclusive.
Yeah.
You know, you don't feel like you're left out when you're talking around her.
Right.
And just very genuine. And that's how so many things start, just offering your help to somebody.
And that's how me and her became friends, actually.
Yes. And I that's literally what we're supposed to get into. She's supposed to be on the show, girl. Her schedule, my schedule, and all these things. Yeah. But I love that because it does show, like, even though you're creating something that's for people to come and get their life and have communities, sometimes people want to attach to you to grow their own personal vendettas, you know?
And that's scary.
And that's scary, especially when you're a person that will give it all. Right. And so, have you learned anything about your boundaries through
so much. That's why I'd rather just stay alone, honestly.
We can't do that.
I know,
we can't.
But I'd rather.
I've learned that when we shut off, you know, physically from other people, it's really because we're hurting emotionally from other people. Yeah. And I'm similar to you that, you know, I've had to cut off my parents and different family members and things like that. And so to grieve people that are alive, I'm not going to say it's easy to walk away from other people, but I did have to get into a new mindset of I can't just end things when I'm done.
Right.
Or when it hurts.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes that hurt is telling you how much you care for these people and stuff like that. So, you know, all that growing and healing shit, I've been working on it. But I'm kind of like you, like if it's not adding up, I can be done with it because I have spent too much time hurting my own self. And if you're supposed to be here, I will know. And if it's not a hell yes, it's a no for me.
Yeah,
at this
I'm very
point.
much black and white. There's no gray. Either I like you or I don't. It's just
it's not gonna be good. So, yeah, I do feel like my women friendships, and I can't even just say women friendships. My friendships, period, have just shown me what love can be. Yeah. And it's also shown me who has loved me and who has not. Because the way that they love me, and I haven't changed. Like, I've changed certain things, but the core of me is the same person. And you can tell when people like you and when they don't. You can tell when you pissing them off, when you get on their nerves, when everything you do, you know, just annoys them, or even the fact that I have a new idea every day and I'm like, oh my gosh, we should do this, you guys. Like, and their response to it.
But I see how your friends, our live audience, interacts with you, and they very much keep you together, and that's what I noticed. The love is definitely there.
They do. They always are there with me, even if there was one day we were shooting and I just couldn't get it together. And I'm a person that if it's not on my heart, then I can't talk.
Same. That's why sometimes I don't do I think the last 2 weeks before this week, I did a hiatus. Because if it's not, like, I was having a bad 2 weeks, I have nothing nice to say right now.
Yeah, I feel
all my
that.
8 thoughts are going to be like, fuck them all.
Yeah, no, fuck that shit. Yeah, I feel that.
So I'll just be quiet.
that eclipse energy was eclipsing, okay?
Yeah, okay, that's what it was? Great.
Yes, it was a big purge. It was a big purge session, like letting go of so many things from the past because you have to make space for new things that are coming in. And so a lot of karmic cycles have been ending, and they kind of all ended at the same time. And so that eclipse coming in really knocked a whole bunch of shit out of us. But when things leave your body, they have to leave, and it hurts. Yeah. You know, it doesn't feel good. But they'll sit there with me, and I sat there for like 2 hours one night and nothing came out. My makeup was done. The video cameras were set up and everything. They had fell asleep and they're like, you ready? And I was like, no. And they were so nice to me, and I was just so mean to myself. So it's just the way that people show up for you when you're being you, it is teaching me how to love myself and how to have grace. Right. But I'm very appreciative of my friends. They are definitely a part of my soulmate journey, you know, for sure. So, all right, we're going to move into some more things. Okay. All right, so we're going to get into the sex tip of the day. Okay. Now, all right. So the sex tip of the day is to pay homage to my first business, My Baby Sexual Essentials, which is a business to help teach people how to create the intimate life they desire. And I do know that you are a very private person, and so I would not put anything on here crazy for you. Okay. So I thought that we should talk about another part of sex and intimacy, which is health. You know, that's a huge part of it. Yeah. It's all right. You can breathe. Go ahead and breathe. Unclench. So, you have been very, recently, you've been very vulnerable and transparent about your journey with fibroids and how dangerous and how aggressive it was. And so I just want to give you a moment to just kind of share that. And you guys also, if you go to her Instagram page, she did make it a highlight and it has some resources. So don't feel compelled to like remember every single detail. But you shared, and some of the things you shared, like people are having sex that is painful.
Yeah.
There are moms that are having issues like with fertility and even just women, period, when it comes to like their menstrual cycle and being ill-informed and also misdiagnosed and being overlooked. And if anything seems off, you guys, you have to talk to someone. So much goes on in us and we don't know. So I really want to just give you the floor to share more of that, because that is a part of sex as well.
Yeah, so I believe I started my menstrual cycle when I was 14.
Okay.
It has never been easy for me. I've probably been on at least 7 to 8 different birth controls because that was the route at that time doctors and pharmaceuticals were taking, right?
And this is for the pain or for
that's what their thing was. This is going to help with your pain. I'm like, I have never had a pain-free period except for the time I didn't have a period. So, like, what is this, right? So it was always very painful for me. And I remember the moment my dad found out I was not a virgin, I was in college. I was in so much pain that the guy I was dating at the time, his teammate and him took me to the hospital because I was throwing up. It was really, really bad.
Wait, from sex?
No.
I was
no.
Wait, oh my God.
No.
Okay.
And the hospital they were like, well, you might be pregnant. So they did a pregnancy test.
Gotcha.
At the time, I'm still under my parents' insurance.
Got you.
My dad got that. And he was like, well, why would you have to take a pregnancy test?
Well, I sat on a toilet seat, Dad. Let's go on to the next thing.
My dad didn't talk to me for like 2 or 3 months. But my periods have just always been very painful. And it's like when I was in Tallahassee, they thought I had endometriosis. The only way to really figure out if you have endometriosis is to do a laparoscopic surgery or whatever. In that surgery, they didn't find anything. Okay, cool. So they gave me another birth control to try. And it just kept going and going and going from there until I'm still an avid Teen Mom watcher. So Macy from Teen Mom, she was talking about PCOS. I'm like, wow, some of these side effects she has sounds like what I have. So I'm like, I'm going to go to this new doctor. I had moved down south and tell him these are my symptoms. And I think I had PCOS. When I started telling him my symptoms, I said he was Russian. He's not Russian. He's Romanian.
Okay.
Someone got really upset with me about that.
She's like, let me correct it. All
right.
Let
me be he's Romanian. He's like, I already know what it is. It's fibroids. We're going to do a transvaginal ultrasound. Nobody had ever done that for me. Nobody had ever done an ultrasound for me, period. So in the transvaginal ultrasound, it came up that I have fibroids. And I remember the tech telling me, she's like, oh, you have fibroids. I didn't know what a fibroid was. So I call my mom. I'm freaking out. I'm crying. She's like, well, first of all, she shouldn't have told you that. Like, that's not her place to tell you what she saw. I don't think they're allowed to do that. And she's like, fibroids? Okay. So I start researching it. And once I had my doctor's appointment with him again, he just told me my results and it was true. I had it. So I had my first surgery in 2018. It was brutal, right? So
what was the surgery? They go in and
it's a myomectomy. It was supposed to be laparoscopic again, which is robotic. So it should have just been tiny incisions, right? One thing I tell people now when they ask me about fibroids, I'm going to be like, yes, all those ultrasounds and the x-rays you have to go through, they're going to show a certain amount. There's always going to be more that they don't see.
There is no just.
Yeah, it's not just. There's always more. And in between finding out I have fibroids and my surgery was like 2 or 3 months span, right? in those 2 or 3 months, I had gotten so bad, I would have to go to the hospital on the weekend and get IVs of blood transfusions. And at the time, my boyfriend was my ex-boyfriend was traveling, so I'd be in the hospital by myself or with my best friend who lives down south. Blood transfusions one time, and the bleeding was terrible. So during this time, clearly I went to him at the right time, because after I saw him, everything just went crazy. I had a cycle for 2 months, bleeding heavily.
Oh my goodness.
So bad. I worked at a radio station one time. Well, at iHeart in Miami, I bled through the chair.
Oh, poo.
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
And my boss, who was a guy or whatever, he was like, "It's okay, my daughter had fibroid." And I was like, oh my God, because I'm like shaking, crying, freaking out. But anyways, to the first surgery, it was supposed to be laparoscopic. The doctor, we were about to go into surgery, he started feeling on my belly. He's like, something's not right. We're going to have to do an open myomectomy, which is basically like a C-section. Mm-hmm. So I have that scar.
Oh, that ain't no hoe to heal either. It hurts so much.
In that surgery, they found a 5-pound tumor that was taking over my uterus. It knocked out one of my ovaries to the point they stopped surgery. They called a doctor who was a cancer specialist who was off that day, made him come in and look at this because it was just that bad. So I get out of surgery. Of course, I was knocked out. I wake up and my mom's looking at me. I'm like, am I dead? The way my mom is looking at me.
She said, am I dead? That's real.
Distraught.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what happened? And she wouldn't say anything. And my best friend, Courtney, had flew in or whatever, because she was living at Tallahassee at the time. And she's like, Meaghan. And I'm like,
they scared the shit out of you.
What happened?
Yeah.
My mom's like, they had to remove an ovary. Honestly, I never wanted kids in my life. So I'm just like, okay, next. Like, but the way my mom was staring at me, I'm like, I know this was bad. Mm-hmm. And it was really, really bad. So they sent that fibroid off to Johns Hopkins. It came back negative with cancer, so that was great. And I just try my best, like do a diet, no beef, no pork, no alcohol, just red wine, water, vitamins. But in 2020, I felt it was coming back. I was in a bad place in my life. COVID happened. I wanted to get away from my ex. I'm like...
The engagement, yeah.
I already know. Like, I could feel my body. And it's like 2 months after I moved to Atlanta, I felt something. And I found a new doctor. And she's like, well, it's only 2 centimeters. How did you know? I was like, instinctively, I could feel it.
It wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah, it was not supposed to be there. So I attribute a lot of fibroid stuff to stress.
I was just about to ask
and I think that's what the last one was for me, for sure. And I was still on birth control. I would definitely give it to birth control. All that stuff.
Yeah.
So I had my second fibroid surgery in 2021. And before that, I was like, I'm not doing any more pain pills. So I had found one scientific study that said, like, chiropractors help with that. Mm-hmm. So I decided to start going to a chiropractor, and it helped. Because I don't do pain pills. The most I'll do is an 800 ibuprofen. That's it. And I'll thug the rest of it out. But, yeah. So I try to help as many women as I possibly can. One woman I know for sure, she found out she had fibroids while she found out she was pregnant. So it was like a double whammy. So trying to help her with that. Just trying to help people because it's scary. And nobody talks about it. And it's like the first time I talked about it on Facebook, women were like, oh, yeah, I've had fibroids or something. I'm like, we need to talk about this more because this is scary. Your period should not be that painful. Yeah. You shouldn't be throwing up. Something is not right. So now, since last year, I stopped taking birth control, which is it was different at first, right? Because I've never been an adult with my own emotions.
Girl, that's real.
So because they've always been regulated. So the last year and a half has been very tricky and hard because I'm not used to feeling so much, aggressively.
I had the emotional regulation part
Yeah.
down here. So my mom, back in the day, she had been on birth control ever since, and she had my big brother when she was 14.
Right.
And she had been on birth control ever since.
Right.
And so when she got in her 30s, she had a tumor on her liver, and it had taken over the liver. It was the birth control. Mm-hmm. And so they had to cut off, and your liver regenerates, so she was fine. But the scar went from it was a big Y.
Yeah.
And back in the day. So, things got better. But that was one thing. And then also the second one was the emotional regulation. So Happy Flow is, I don't know, you remember XO Nicole?
Yeah, you told me about her.
Yes, she does this pill, and it's called Happy Flow, and it's not a gummy, because they went extensive in the research, not the gummy kind, because that contributes to certain things that you're not getting all the minerals and vitamins and all that stuff that you need. But people it's been helping their fertility journey. It's been helping their fibroids, and they're going away naturally, and also helping them from coming back, but also the emotional regulation while you're in your period. So basically, it's just literally a medicine for your feminine health, your feminine, kind of like gut health, but just your feminine health. And the responses that people have been saying, have been crazy. And she gives so much knowledge. So that's another one that I'm going to drop below for you guys, the link to that. But her page talks about it a lot. And I definitely have to have you on the Real Mama Pod to talk about this, because both of those mamas had and I know you're not a mom, but you know what I mean, to make sure, she's like, I did not have kids. But about that part of the journey, because it is a big issue for other people. And so just being able to add that and just letting you know, I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad that you were like, no, something is wrong, and so I definitely want to let you know that you guys are more than welcome to have a panel here to have this type of conversation. Because, I know you're doing women in radio, but this is a thing that needs to be discussed. So the period doctor is another one that I love hearing her talk on our shows. And she talked about some of that, like what is considered abnormal, how to actually identify what is abnormal and things like that. So you guys, I know that, the sex tip of the day can get real, saucy, but the other part is the health part, the health part, and it all matters. So, so yeah. But thank you for sharing that. And, if you have any tips on, I know you said stress. Yeah. Stress. And then I know that you shared some doctor recommendations on your page. And is there anything else that you wanted to give us about just the fibroid, whatever you want, you can say with this?
I would just say take it easy on yourself. I know I've definitely struggled with body dysmorphia. And when I had my fibroids for real, the first time, that was a major disruption in how I felt and how I looked, because I looked pregnant. And it was just I'm working out, I'm doing all this, I'm barely eating, my stomach is so, what is going on? So, but giving yourself grace and being with partners, so important. Being with partners who understand what you're going through. And don't do some BS to satisfy a temporary need because you can't.
Look here, better to know now. Well, thank you for sharing that, and I'm glad you're here again, because bleeding that much and all of that, people don't understand how dangerous it is sometimes to be a woman. It's just dangerous as hell, whether you're having kids or not. So so this does lead us to the last part of the show. The spiritual tip of the day, very similar to the adult tip of the day, but spirituality is such a huge umbrella of things. And for me, it definitely saved my life. I've always been a religious girly, but I didn't realize that that's just one thing. And I've needed my ancestors. I've needed the universe. I've needed to follow more things in my chart to just understand where I've come from, especially because of the traumas in my life. And so there's so many different things that have helped me strengthen my own intuition. There are things that help me figure out more things about myself, like with this astrology map of things, understanding how to communicate with my ancestors, like maybe when I need an energy from somebody that's not here anymore. and all of those things. And I think that it can be intimidating because people don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, they're like, what does that mean though? Like, what do you mean the ethos and all of that stuff? So we just go over like one thing, you know, an episode, so we can just share, and maybe whatever it is that we say, you go look it up for yourself, so that way you can try it too. Right. And, you know, eat the meat, spit the bones, whatever applies, it applies. And if it doesn't, maybe you got something else from the episode today. So I'm gonna break a rule and pull out my phone because I put all the I'm gonna take a champagne break. Yeah, take a champagne break. Okay, so today's spiritual tip of the day is an astrology one, and it talks about the eighth house. And the eighth house is the house of transformation, intimacy, and unraveling the mysteries of life. It can be linked to themes of life, death, money, inheritance, legacy, the merging of resources, connection, and it's how we face our fears. And so you and I have a similarity where we both have Pisces in our eighth house, and it does mean that you rely on your spirituality a lot, right? And so I just thought this would be a good one to go into, because I think when you're birthing something new, such as the Women in Radio Conference, or up and moving and changing your life 2 or 3 times, no matter what, and starting over when you want to, or having to trust your body and say, something doesn't feel right, or finding the doctor at that right time before it's too late, that sponsor coming in when you were like, I don't know how I can do this. That's faith to me. Right. Like, you know, and so just thought we could go into that house. Yeah. All right. Let me find which one I'm gonna do. We already shared what the 8th house is for, but also then there's Pisces. Pisces is one of the most intuitive and psychic signs of the zodiac, right? And so I know for me, Pisces shows up in my Mars. Mars is a planet of how you move. It's your fire. It's like how you get things done. So it's more like, like how do you move? For Pisces to be there, it's the hippie of the zodiac signs, right? And so the planet of like movement and war and aggression, you know, mine is in hippie state. So I'm like, war, man, what do you mean? Like, you know, so that's Pisces. And so Pisces being in that 8th house, let me just read you what it says, because otherwise I'm going to go on. The placement of Pisces in the 8th house results in a unique fusion of spiritual connectedness and transformation. The Piscean traits of intuition, tranquility, presence, and compassion facilitate a deep, intuitive comprehension of the complexities and nuances of the 8th house themes. The strength of this placement reside in the ability to traverse these themes with tranquility and acceptance, while the challenge revolve around maintaining a balance between the spiritual and practical aspects of life. Ultimately, this placement encourages a journey towards emotional liberation and spiritual freedom, navigated with the gentle current of life's ebbs and flows. So, I'm trying to see if I find one more before I move on, but because it can mean so many different things, and I wish I could pull up TikTok. I can't believe they're trying to ban the TikTok, but the way that they be talking on there about it, like it, and I'm gonna maybe I'll just drop some videos below so you guys can see it. But understanding what's in your 8th house is how you, I guess, traverse life with these things that have to be transformed and rebirthed and things like that. So that's the spiritual tip of the day, is to go look up all that shit that I just said. Okay. Look up your chart on Cafe Astrology, figure out where you need your time of birth, the city that you were born in, and your date of birth, and pull it up and just see what's in your 8th house, and just go on TikTok and say, what does the 8th house mean? That's as simple as it is. Like, the way that I understand it, it's not going to be the way that you digest it, but I don't want that to deter you from just trying. Understanding your chart is so important, whether it's because of your kids, because you don't understand them, or because of your partner and just really trying to understand where they're coming from, or just yourself. Like, if you're like, even when you're adopted, like, you might be like, oh, I don't know anything about my family. You can pull up your chart and find out things about your mom, find out things about your dad, and find out who you are. And so that's what I love about it, that it's a key. So you guys, make sure that you check that out. And before we get up out of here, I want to remind you guys, let's see what the minutes is, what I got to tell y'all. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube, because the van life vlog is coming. It's called I Am Home. And I will be putting out a monthly vlog from the van to just show you guys how I'm doing it. All the crazy shit. And also teaching you guys how to do it too, if you want to camp, see national parks. I'm not trying to be funny, but outside is expensive. Okay. Outside is expensive right now. And nature is something that gives me a release. You can see beautiful things. It's such a luxury thing to me. But I get it. If you don't know what you're doing, you can fuck around and it not be safe. So you can follow along and I'll teach you how to plan those trips, but also just give you guys the nitty gritty of what it is like as a mom who is in production and balancing these ebbs and flows and starting over and really walking on faith. Because I don't know how I'm doing it and I don't want to stop sharing because I think it's important. So that, and then y'all know I said the vibes, the mood. So get into those looks, the visuals. I'm also shooting it myself. My team is teaching me how to edit and stuff with it. Wow. So let me tell you. It's a challenge for me, but it's a way for me to learn and me stay engaged. Because if I edit something I don't want to do, it's never going to get done. So there's that. Make sure you click the link below to join the Patreon, support that. All the sexual essentials classes and discussions and all of that is over there. And so, yeah, so click all the links below, all that stuff. And then Meaghan, go ahead and lead us out. Tell us where we can find you, how we can support you, when we going to hear from you again. What can we do for you?
So you can find me at It's Meaghan Taylor, ITSMEAG Taylor, Instagram. That's where I'm really at. Women in Radio, at Women in Radio on everything. Every Sunday, as you were saying, I do my top 8 thoughts of the week. I try to get those out by 10 a.m. Eastern, so on my story. But you can also find them on my highlights. I'm always open to talks about fibroids or anything in my DMs.
Absolutely. So if you guys have a podcast, make sure you please ask her to come and talk about it more because she has been saying in those 8 thoughts of the week that she wants to do more speaking. Yeah. And so I'm glad to be a part of that journey.
Thank you. No, this is great. This is my first live podcast.
I love that for you. Hopefully you got a little lit. Yeah. I hope you had a good time. And just thank you for being here. No, and you guys make sure that you ask that girl who you've been seeing to do something with you or to do something with her. Making new friends as adults is very awkward, but here we are. We are doing it, and I love it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you for making this a safe space. I love you so much, and I will see you next week.